From where he sat on a low stool, the boy, whose name was Eugene Talmadge Biggs, but who was often called Knockout or KO or Knocker, had counted the suits hanging in the open closet 3 times. And each time he counted them, he came up with a different number. That did not surprise him. He was not a good counter. It was just something to do until it was time for him to go out and do the only thing he had left. Besides, nothing much surprised him anymore. He had decided a long time ago that the trick was to try to do the next thing in front of you and not think about it too much. Up to a point, anyway. The trouble was in knowing where the point was, the point beyond which you should not go. Sometimes in the quiet hours of the night, when he was lying in bed waiting for sleep, or even walking down the street in the bright light of morning, the thought would come to him that he had long since passed the point beyond which he should not have gone, and that his life would never be his own again. He forced himself to carefully count the suits one more time, and got yet another number. There were probably either 130, or 127, or 133, or 128 suits of clothes hanging in the open closet just there in front of him. And on the floor beneath each suit was a pair of shoes. So, however many suits were in the closet, there were that many pairs of shoes also. It occurred to him the first time he saw them that there were not that many suits in all of Bacon County, Georgia, which was where he came from. But he was not in Bacon County now. He was in a house that was as big as a train station on St. Charles Avenue in New Orleans, Louisiana. And things were different here from the way they were where he came from. Christ, were they different. The whole world had changed up on him in New Orleans, like the houses on St. Charles Avenue. There were few of them he could look at and not be reminded of a train station, or else wonder why in God's name anybody would want to live in something so unthinkably huge. He looked down at the new pair of boxing shoes he was wearing. It was the first time he had ever had them on because they were not his. They had been furnished to him, along with the pair of everlast boxing trunks he was wearing. They did not fit him very well because he was not wearing a cup. A jockstrap, but not a cup. And neither was he wearing the heavy leather belt that would have held the cup. He had no need of a cup in the bouts he fought now. His hands resting on his knees were already taped. He had taped them himself. He got up from the stool and tested the carpet under his feet. It was deep enough that a man could sprain an ankle if he was not careful. He shot out a couple of jabs, moved left, then right, always careful of the way he stepped on the carpet. From the crowd out in the enormous ballroom at the center of the mansion, a roar of voices exploded, then faded. The shouts and screams sounded not of celebration, but of anger. Eugene told himself that he did not give a good goddamn if they were celebrating or going to war. He was standing in the dressing room of a man who owned 100 and some odd suits of clothes, and who was not normal in any way that mattered, and whose friends were not normal either, so he did not give a good goddamn what they were doing or thinking or feeling out there. The whole wall at the end of the closet was a mirror, and Eugene watched himself bob and weave, move in and out, cover up, and then come out hooking. He could see the bathroom reflected behind him, see the gold handles of the spigots blinking on and off like lights. He did not know if the handles were real gold or not, but it would not have surprised him if they were, and he did not spend any time thinking about it. Now that he was moving, shooting out his left and slipping imaginary punches, he could not help but remember the time when this was all real. Even as he heard the roaring voice of the fake fight crowd out in the ballroom of the mansion. Even though he had not done any road work in a very long time, he was still a notch-solid middleweight, standing nearly 6 feet 2 inches tall in his stocking feet. He was startlingly handsome. Dark, nose off-center from being broken, and just enough scar tissue in his eyebrows to make him look a little sinister, maybe even dangerous. It was the kind of face that caused people to stop talking in elevators and turned heads in restaurants. He had been aware for a long time of how striking his features were, of how smooth and strong his stride was when he moved along the street or through the lobby of a hotel. He had been asked more than once if he had ever acted, or if he was in fact an actor. Sometimes he said he was, which he knew was not exactly a lie.